Act 2, Scene 2 is a big one, so I'm going to go as quickly as I can while still trying to do this justice. King Claudius, Queen Gertrude have summoned Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. They always appear with each other, they're never separate without them, so you can think of them as RNG for ease of purposes. They're a relatively minor character, but the king has a specific use for them. He introduces the situation as to why they've been summoned to Elsinore, and that is his stepson, Hamlet, seems to have been transformed, in not a great way either. So I need you guys to figure out what's going on with him, because you've been friends since childhood. So based off of that kind of past history, maybe talk to him and figure out what mysterious ailment is causing Hamlet to act weird. Queen confirms that Hamlet knows them and has a good history with them, and also offers a little bit of incentive at the bottom, saying, help us out here, and a king's gratitude is worth quite a bit, hint, hint. And that's probably the motivation there, because again, minor characters and why they choose to sell out their friends so easily at a drop of a dime, which they do right here, maybe simply because they are more influenced by the potential power and status that come with being favored by the king and queen. They point out, you guys could have commanded us, but you chose to ask nicely, and we will definitely do what you say and sell out our friend by spying on him. King thanks Rosencrantz and then Guildenstern. The queen, on the other hand, reverses the naming, often to show that King Claudius gets them mixed up. We as an audience aren't really supposed to make a big distinction between the two, so how can the king be expected to do the same? Polonius comes in to let them know that the ambassadors from Norway, you'll remember from way back in Act 1, this whole problem with Norway acting all belligerent, and there being a situation where there's a prince who's being constrained by an uncle who took the throne from the dead father. It's really similar and familiar. But anyways, Prince was rattling his saber, trying to act like he wanted to take back some Danish lands on behalf of the memory of his beloved Norwegian father. So the ambassadors being joyfully back is Polonius' way of introducing the good news he hopes to spring onto the king. There is a distinct order here that indicates Polonius planned this. Like, he points out that he has found the source of Hamlet's lunacy. That's probably more important to Claudius right now. And King's like, tell me about that. And Polonius is like, wait, no, that's going to be dessert. Right? It'll be the fruit to that great feast. Queen showing a bit of sign of self-awareness here, like, I am at a loss to understand why they just don't go with this. She says, I'm sure the reason why he's acting weird is because of his father's death and our hasty marriage. Like, if everybody had figured this out and just nodded their heads along to this, could have saved us a lot of trouble here. Ambassadors come in. They have good news. Said they talked to the king, the uncle, and he was really sad to hear that his nephew was misbehaving. And so he scolded him, he rebukes him right there, and his nephew says, oh, I promise I will never take arms up against Denmark. And the king, being overjoyed by this, says, well then let me give you a buttload of crowns, just like a whole bunch of money, because I'm so proud of you, my boy, I'm so happy for you. And you can use that money to keep those soldiers that you have drafted into your army, and go to war against Poland. Like, we want to take those guys out too, because, they're Polish. Oh, by the way, this is a pass that I would like the King of Denmark to sign. Claudius, he's a buddy of mine. I would just like him to make sure that it's cool for our army to kind of just march right through in between Norway and Poland through his kingdom in Denmark. Like, nothing, suspicious. We're just going to take our vast army that we brought up for revenging purposes, and we're going to march through Denmark, but we're totally going to go invade Poland with that. Sound cool? Cool? Yeah, we all cool. Claudius, like I said, kind of consumed with a Hamlet question, so he says, yeah, it likes us well. I'm cool with that. We'll talk about that later. This is not going to have bad consequences later on in the play. No, everything will be fine. Polonius then begins to really play up the stereotype, or maybe he actually is a stereotype of the senile old man. If you listen to the audiobook version of this, that'll give you the enhanced soul-killing effect, because he spends about a dozen lines here and another 24 here. My math could be slightly off. Just wasting time. Here's another Shakespearean line that has survived the passage of the centuries. Brevity is the soul of wit. But he proceeds to go and do the exact opposite of brevity being the soul of wit and just talks on and on. Queen, speaking on behalf of all the readers here, saying, just get to the point, please. Just as a little sample of this, Polonius says, he's mad, 'tis true, 'tis true, 'tis pity, and pity 'tis true, right? Like, this is nonsense. But finally we get to his pet theory down here and says, it's because he's obsessed with my daughter, and because they broke up, now he's just acting mopey and moody and weird. Here's some proof. He takes out a letter, which is, I think, the Shakespearean equivalent of nowadays, like reading through your children's texts or something. And here's a text from, like, Hamlet to his girlfriend at the time. To my beautiful Ophelia and her excellent white breasts, right? Like, he's reading this to Hamlet's mom in front of his stepdad, and they're all just looking at these very intimate texts between the two, or letters, really, like, awkward. Queen points out, whoa, he's writing this stuff? The letter from Hamlet's kind of funny. We have to wonder if this is part of his play acting or if this is just generally how he writes, because for a guy who's known for making these amazing soliloquies, his poems are, quite frankly, crap. Like, he rhymes move with love, and then at the end he says, I suck at poetry. King checks in to say, so this is how she's been treating him? What's going on? Polonius doesn't answer directly, but he pulls the old teacher trick of answering with a question. What do you think about me? Which indicates that their relationship, again, kind of new and still feeling each other out. And King says very politely, I think you seem to be pretty honorable and honest. And Polonius is like, yes, that's definitely true. So here's all the reasons why this is the theory that we should follow. And I've been telling, my daughter to be responsible and to stop, being in this relationship with Prince Hamlet, because he's out of your star. He's too good for you, in a sense. And I'm just trying to be the responsible parent here, as well as be your loyal servant, right? Like, I'm not trying to impede any potential plans you might have for the prince. I'm being a good dad/counselor. Queen's like, I guess that's possible. So what's the next plan then? And we know what Polonius's default plan is. He's going to use his daughter as a spy for Hamlet. And apparently this phrasing here, loosing my daughter, had a sexual connotation in Elizabethan times too. So Hamlet, who's about to appear according to the stage directions, and may have already appeared and could have heard this, would be hearing Polonius saying, let's use my daughter is a honeypot, right? Like a sexual trap to determine what's going on with Hamlet. Hamlet enters reading through a book. Polonius says, okay, let me handle this. You guys take off. This is the passage that we already looked at. A couple of things worth noting that we didn't cover. When Polonius asks, do you know me? Hamlet says, yeah, you're a fish merchant, fishmonger, apparently also a slang for pimp at the time, which really plays up the whole daughter being used in sexual kind of bait way toward Hamlet. After that, this strange line here, if the sun breeds maggots in a dead dog, remember Hamlet's wordplay on the word son. This could also be himself, right? So son plus dead carcass equals offspring that are maggots, right? Like, this is like a really twisted biology/pregnancy analogy. So he has sex with the dead dog, or in this case, the daughter, Ophelia. I know, it's a really weird metaphor, bear with me. And then maggots might come out of it. It's not really meant to be a particularly, I think, apt metaphor, except for the fact that he suddenly switches topics and says, by the way, do you have a daughter? Well, let her not walk in the sun. Again, right? Wink, wink, me. Conception's blessing, but as your daughter may conceive, like, keep her away from me, because I'll get her pregnant. Between this, what's this actual thing about? And Hamlet goes full snark here and says, well, this book claims that old men have gray beards. He probably looks right at Polonius and his beard there. That they have wrinkly faces, again, looking at his faces. That their eyes have a bunch of, eye gunk coming out of it, looks at his eyes. And that they're stupid, along with having weak legs. All of which is totally true. I really believe that, but I think it's not cool that the author wrote it down so blatantly here. Method to the madness. Another famous line through there. Polonius probably senses he's being insulted, but at the same time, Hamlet's giving himself some cover by acting kind of crazy about this. Worth noting, Hamlet says, "You can't take anything from me except my life." Wordplay there could also be accept as in take my life. Like, go ahead, kill me, or try to kill me, or something. There's a good chance he already knows that Polonius is plotting to find out more about him and possibly using his daughter against him.